Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Mic Drop. We've now reached episode 17, which is quite crazy to think about. But as always, we're talking about what's going on in the music industry and what's going on in our music brains. But we're gonna start off with Nisha today about Tay Keith and his lasting legacy.
Takey, he's one of those producers that I feel like people who don't know the name, you'd know at least like one of his songs or one of the songs he produced or helped to produce. So he started making music when he was like 14 and it was just like putting it on YouTube, kind of doing like piano covers of like Lollipop and like stuff like that, which is really cool because I just did a bit of research before I started. But I thought that was really cool and it just kind of shows that like kind of making music and producing music, it was kind of always in him. He unfortunately passed away last week. And it was, very sudden. He was only 29 years of age. But I just had like a sort of look back at his career and I feel like rap music in 2018, he really helped sort of define that sound. Like Sicko Mode by Travis Scott, Non-Stop, Drake. Um, and he worked with like for Sicko Mode, he was like it was nominated for like best rap song, which it sadly didn't win, but because I feel like Sicko Mode was just like such a big song that year. But he worked with like Drake, Travis Scott, Lil Baby, Gunna, Eminem, Cardi B, Beyonce. Will
Woo!
he produced the song Before I Let Go off Homecoming or the deluxe version or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it was a really tragic thing to hear, I think, because he really did sort of he helped define the sound of like that sort of few years, 2018, 2019. Um, and it was just like it's just like really sad that, we're not able to sort of see his career progress any further, but the career he did leave behind was a great one. Um, yeah.
Yeah, kind of like during that time period as well, it was also like helping a lot of up and coming rappers. Like I feel like Travis Scott is obviously at that time not as big as a name as he was now. Same with Cardi B, and he's kind of had this career and as well as promoting his own name. But the main thing with producers, and we've talked about this before, is a lot of people don't really know them by name. But once you realize who they've worked with and who they've uplifted in their careers it is like they are like a fundamental part of that genre and that sound that you were talking about from that 2018 2019 era. Katie, do you know of any of the background of in his work and rap?
No, I hadn't heard of him at all actually, but I mean, I don't think as you said, I don't know many producers by names, but it sounds like he had a massive influence. It sounds like a great guy.
Yeah. Nisha, do you have any more to say about Tay Keith?
It's just it was kind of sad. He was in like a sort of legal battle with Sexy Red and her production team or whatever. Because he produced her album In Sexy We Trust and apparently never received any payment for it or anything. Like they just never paid him for it. So that was like an ongoing legal battle that we didn't really see a resolution to. But
Yeah.
he was executive producer on that album as well.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of speaks to the industry as a whole of we don't know them by name and possibly because like we don't as fans we might not know the behind the scenes. We're not really sure if they're getting treated unfairly. I mean, this isn't something I've heard of before, like behind the scenes coverage of producers getting treated unfairly. But it's certainly something that could easily happen within the industry, and just because they're not super well known, when will the fans find out? When will legal action take place? When will they get the credit that they deserve? Not just in writing, but also like just in multitude of other ways. Do you think that is something that could easily be going on, Katie?
Yeah, and I think it's definitely about to get worse as well with AI. Because I mean, in a few years, the role of a producer is basically something that, in some ways, people aren't going to need. I mean, I don't think it's ever going to be something that should disappear because I think there's something really beautiful about having like the human touch on it, obviously. But in terms of what AI can do, a songwriter can just submit their song and give it some prompts, and it's going to be able to give you a polished version in like a second, which is scary to think about.
Yeah, and like that aspect of the human touch, I know a lot of producers end up having their producer tags, and like because they want to be known, they want to know, they want the fans to know they've worked on this song and have been able to do all this coverage behind the scenes. But as you mentioned, AI, it could easily just take over, give it the finishing touches, and clean it up in a couple of seconds, a couple minutes, and it's sorted possibly. But it is going to miss that human element. Nisha, do you think that could be a threat of like just production as a whole?
I think so, and I hate that it is because I think just like music is it's art, and I think you need that human experience to make art, and an AI doesn't have that. And I really hope it doesn't, but I'm not feeling hopeful about it.
Yeah, because obviously, as humans, we've made multitudes of art over centuries and centuries, and now there's this robot who doesn't really have feelings or have emotions that is complex as humans are, that could easily just strip that away. And that, as a music industry as a whole, is quite scary, not just with production, but with songwriting. But yeah, removing that human element could be a danger, and we're seeing it creep in. Sometimes artists using it for visuals, sometimes artists are using it for the actual songs. And I, obviously, back to Beyonce, she talks about people don't make albums, only a human could possibly make a coherent album together. And I think we'll really miss that if AI does come in full force. Obviously, it can be helpful, but that can be missed. Um, Kind of reflect on the lasting legacy of Take Keith. We're kind of moving towards legacies of art of other artists, with Katie, talking about Lily Allen and whether do pop stars, do fans deserve the right to listen to a pop star or just a star's old music?
Yeah, so I thought about this because, as you said, I went to see Lily Allen this week and it was so good. But on the way home, I overheard this dad and daughter talking about how they weren't expecting it because it was all the new album. It was basically just like a performance of it from start to finish, and it was really engaging. Like they had a really cool set, and the way she told the story was just really beautiful. But it was literally just that album. There was nothing else going on. Um, and I can imagine if you turned up to that show without that context, which is what I heard these two on the train discussing, they missed the fact that she didn't play any of the old songs at all, because the reason they were there is when the daughter was growing up, like the dad used to play these songs and they had that like emotional connection in that sense. And I'd imagine, to be honest, that was probably the case for quite a lot of people at the gig. If they're not as up to date with current music, they probably went to hear some of those older songs. And that is something I understand, but I think in a way I kind of sit on the other side of that, because for me, I think when an artist kind of moved on, particularly someone like Lily Allen, where those songs that she was famous for, she wrote when she was young and living a completely different lifestyle to what she's living now. I think for me, there almost are like songs of the past. And obviously, I can still listen to them on Spotify, but I think if you're going to watch them perform, I understand why they want to perform what feels most honest and genuine to how they are now. So I think that's kind of where I stand on it, but I do really get both sides, and I know like a lot of people can come away from concerts quite disappointed if they've not heard that one big song that they went for.
Yeah, it really is like a rough one, especially with Lily Allen. She's had such a long career. Um, and to be able to encapsulate her entire career, whereas when she brought out this new album, she's touring this new album. And I think the expectation for me when I go to see an artist or I buy a concert ticket, if it like I'm gonna assume it's for the new album first because this is the music that they've just came out with. It's what they want to promote. It's what they're proud of most recently. And obviously they've got works ongoing in the past, but it might not resonate the same as it used to. Nisha, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think really you can't, or at least I don't anyway. I never go to a gig and I sort of have an expectation, oh, they're going to play this song, they're going to play this song, because even like a newer or just like less well-known song, like the thing that came to my head is Inhaler, and I've seen Inhaler perform 3 times live. And the first time they were quite small and their like discography wasn't as wide, and they played my favorite Inhaler song. And I was like, oh, that's great. And then I saw them again, and it was only like 6 months later, but they had a new album and they had like a lot more fans and it was a much bigger venue. And I was like, in my head, I was like, I'd love to hear that song again, but like it's less well known, like it's not popular, it's not off the new album, and they didn't play it, and I was just like, okay, like I got to see all these other songs performed so well, and I think you can never really have an expectation, I think, as a fan.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think my mind, like with reflecting and going back through everything, my mind went to like the Eras tour because I mean she quite literally done everything other than debut. She had a section dedicated to every single album, even though she's done tours in the past for specific albums like Reputation. She could have easily after COVID, she could have just Taylor could have just done the COVID albums that came out, but she didn't. And I think a lot of fans are kind of seeing this expectation to go through everything and go and like dedicate the time properly towards those to the past works. But yeah, I kind of do see the point of not playing the big old songs of the past because a lot of artists may not want to be trapped in that headspace or have like this ongoing mantra or even have a song that defines them. Because there's a lot of artists that when a song goes big, it's not the song they expected. And it might be a song that, and sometimes I feel like when an album comes out, an artist will always mention one song that particularly might not made the cut. They're like, oh, I actually wasn't thinking about adding this song until the last couple of days until we finalized everything. And it is like just fan reaction and it is a weird one of both sides of obviously the fans as well as the artists. But yeah, Katie, do you have any last words?
I guess it's also a little bit what you think the fans are kind of owed, because I guess in some cases they're paying so much money to go to these gigs, and if there's particular songs that got the artist there in the first place, I guess there is a case to be argued that they're kind of paying homage to that and respecting what brought them there. So I do see both sides, but I think at the end of the day, for me, it's that they're artists, they're not just entertainers, and even like how they're feeling on that day might change the set list.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of like what would be my final point on it.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like, especially with how expensive concerts are getting, it's almost what you said, the being owed and this almost entitlement that maybe fans have gotten because concerts have became so expensive and like just a big thing of traveling to places, actually getting the ticket and everything. So yeah, I think it is personally on the artist because as you mentioned, setlist could change day to day. They may not want to play a certain song. It's not going to be the same. Um, Nisha, what do you think?
Yeah, I fully agree. I think there is kind of it is a real two-sided coin that, you know, you can understand both sides to it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's you can't really pinpoint it down quite like I couldn't really pinpoint my next topic down. So recently I've just been listening to like a lot of love songs from from the past and kind of modern day ones. And I was like, oh, I was at first I started with like, oh, I'm gonna think about like how they've evolved over time. And then I realized it's not possible. It truly is impossible because people have wrote about love, people made films about love and songs about love for centuries and centuries and centuries, and no one really knows what it is because it's different to everyone. Like I saw a clip from Olivia Dean on her tour recently. I think she was at BBC Radio 1 Big Weekend, and she talks about her new album, The Art of Loving, and kind of how that album has made her find the meaning. And to her, it's wanting to see them win and be their best selves, not just a romantic partner, but platonically and just everyone in your life. But I kind of wanted to go into some specifics, like just main ones I've been listening to. Um, I feel like Frank Ocean has a lot of love songs, and the main one I've been listening to is Thinking About You. But one thing I noticed with Frank is he reflects a lot on like past love and maybe what he could have done differently, or just feelings in that emotion. Um, like Thinking About You is kind of reflecting on a past relationship, maybe what I should have said. And then there's other moments where it's Bad Religion, where he's reflecting on society. And then White Ferrari is again kind of this reflection again. This next song, probably one of my favorite Fleetwood Mac songs. It's Only Over You, and it's to me, it's kind of like this in the moment kind of feel. Um, the next one, I'm just gonna quickly steam through these. The next one, I kind of thought of "God Only Knows" by the Beach Boys, which influence here, there, and everywhere. I mean, Paul McCartney's been very vocal, saying that "God Only Knows" is one of like the best songs ever written. Like that's what he said it, and "Here, There, and Everywhere" by the Beatles was influenced by that song. And then the last one I kind of wanted to talk about was "Futile Devices" by Sufjan Stevens, because everyone, as I mentioned, like it can't be pinpointed. Everyone's expressing it differently. But he argues that words are futile devices, that it's not incapable, it's ineffective to present the emotions. Um, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to know what some of your guys' favorites could be. Is there like a possible way to pinpoint it down, which I don't think there is. Um, Nisha.
My favorite love song is actually a Beach Boys song as well, and it is "Darling" by the Beach Boys. Um, and then a second one is "Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic" by The Police. They're my two favorite love songs. And I think it's more so how a song makes you feel that you can sort of be like, oh, this is love. This is about love. Because it is a feeling, and it is kind of like an all encapsulating feeling. And I think only a feeling in a song that kind of makes you feel something, can sort of explain it in that way. And I think that that kind of comes back to AI as well. Like a computer couldn't do that. I think it is the human touch that like a human can feel something, make a song about it that can make a listener feel something. And I think that's just like a beautiful kind of chain of events. But they're my two favorite.
Yeah, Katie. Do you have any personal favorites?
I'm struggling to like pinpoint one, but I would say anything Adrian Lenkerect ever is probably like the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. The one that comes to my mind, and it is a love song, but it's more about troubled love. It's called "Sadness is a Gift," and it's kind of about how when things are coming to the end, you've still got to take the fact that you're so sad it's over as like a sign that things have been good. I know that's not that happy, but I think that's like the first one that comes into my brain. Otherwise, I'd probably say "Sunrise" by Nora Jones. Just because I remember my dad used to like play that in the car when I was like 3 years old and I was having a tantrum, and that was like the only thing that would calm me down. So I think I've just that song to me is just like about unconditional love, and yeah, that'd probably
Oh.
be my favorite.
I was gonna say that's really beautiful. But it's like you kind of mentioned like this sadness, like reflecting back, and it made me think of those. I remember there was a clip, like an interview with Ethan Hawke. I think it was around the Oscar time on that on the carpet, and it was, this feeling of the person who's in love is the one who wins at the end, even if they get their heart broken. And a lot of people use the phrase of "it's better to love than to have lost." And I think, as Nisha mentioned, it is this feeling. It is like it can't be put into words. It can't be put into like just anything. I mean, as I mentioned before, we've done it for centuries. No one knows. Everyone's different. No one knows. And it is that feeling that people talk about, which I think is always a beautiful thing, and especially when you've got that feeling, and then when songs can help, like just exacerbate it. It is kind of insane to think about that all these different artists have made songs on a similar theme and give you the similar feeling, but it all means different to each person. But yeah, so I think it's just been kind of getting back into it, just listening to it's kind of insane to. But yeah, apologies. Uh, Well, I think that is it for episode 17 of Mic Drop. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, check out our website where we'll have articles going up constantly. I'm like sometimes in like the work group chat, it's just article after article after article. They're getting pumped out. So there's never a lack of content on there, guys. So please check it out. And thank you so much for listening to Mic Drop episode 17. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.